Hello, everyone. I'm Caitlin Moore. I'm the Financial Literacy Manager here at Union Bank and Trust. And today we are going to be talking about Banking 101 and types of payments. So we're going to be going through Banking 101 today. That is how a bank works, how the branch works, how drive-through works, just who you're going to meet and what does security look like there at the bank. I know that there's, especially in Lincoln, it's a refugee hub. We have just a lot of folks from a lot of places that come to Lincoln. And so there's a lot of cultural differences when it comes to banking. And it may seem odd that there might be, but if you're coming from another country, banks are not widely used around the globe within every country. And so what I wanted to do was just set up folks for an understanding of how banks work here in Lincoln, specifically UBT. So not every bank works this way specifically, but for the most part, you're going to meet the same people, and we do the same thing. So let's get started with that. If I could move my mouse here. Okay, here we go. So let's talk definitions. So we have a branch and a drive-through. So a branch is the physical location of a bank. This is where you go. So you see UBT, we've got plenty around Lincoln, and you see the name UBT. And so that's what a branch is. Just think of UBT, the company, as like a tree trunk. And then we have different locations, which are like the branches on a tree. So each location is considered a branch, but it's just like, we'll call it the O Street branch or the UNL branch or Center branch, things like that. So they're just different locations. The branches are where you can go to deposit money, so put money in or pull money out, apply for loans, use a safe deposit box, discuss financial needs. So there are some places, some banks that have, especially UBT, that have buildings, like office buildings, but you won't find a branch there. They don't have any money there. So I'm going to be working out of a building when we go back that we don't have any money. So the everyday person who banks with UBT will never be found in our building. It's just employees. So that's not considered a branch. That's just an office. So the branches are specifically where the bank is. A drive-through. Not every branch has a drive-through, but the drive-through are lanes located at the branch that you can drive up in your car and still get all of your banking needs met. So you drive up to a window or a air chute that has a little tube that you put money into or you get money out of, and you could talk to the person behind the window. So right now with COVID, a lot of branches are closed. Most of them are for most banks. And so the drive-through is the only way that you could do your banking, but you could do everything through the drive-through, which is really nice. But not every branch has a drive-through. So even though there's a physical location of the bank, not all of them have the drive-through lanes, mainly because there's no space for it. There's one on O Street that there is not. I believe it's on O Street. So if you're looking to not get out of your car, find one with a drive-through, then you don't have to get out, which is really nice. Let's talk who you're going to meet at the bank. So there's several people if you're walking into the bank that you're going to meet. You're going to see some support staff, tellers, personal bankers, loan officers, assistant branch manager, and the branch manager. And I'm going to explain who all of these people are. So oh my gosh, did you guys hear that? Audio? Okay, good. I had a video load. And I'm going to take this out of this. Sorry. Okay, so support staff. When you first go into a branch, you're probably going to see someone there within UBT that's going to say, "Hi, how can I help you today?" And that's when you're going to say something like, "I want to open up a savings account," or "I want to deposit money." And they're going to point you to the right person. Often these support staff are in bigger branches. Maybe there's a lot going on. And so it's easier to just have somebody meet you at the door and say, "Hey, step over here, step over here." Not every branch has this, but likely someone is going to say hello to you and ask you how they can help you and then point you in the right direction. The next one is a teller. And tellers are the ones that you deal with most of the time at the bank. The teller is the one behind the counter that you hand your cash to, or they're going to hand you cash when you deposit or withdraw. And so they're going to help you with the deposits, withdrawals, if you need a money order, account management, maybe you're locked out of your account, Maybe you just have some questions. I went through the drive-through the other day and I closed an account. So that was with a teller. They were able to do that. If you're going to open up an account, they're going to pass you on to a personal banker, but they can do a lot of things there behind the counter as a teller. And also tellers, really good way to start a career at a bank is to start as a teller. They often hire at 18 years old. Some banks require you to be 21, but it's actually a really, really great job to have because they'll likely work with any school schedules or responsibilities. It could be part-time, it may be full-time, you get benefits, things like that. So it's a lot of people that move their way up at a bank start as a teller because you get a lot of knowledge in that position. So that would be a really good job as you turn.
What is their pay?
It really depends. That's a great question. Somebody asked what the pay was. And usually it's over minimum wage. So I think the average is like $12 or $13 an hour. But they get the increases when minimum wage goes up. They often get a bump in their pay to compensate for that. So yeah, at a bank, it's usually more than minimum wage, but you are subject to a background check. They're going to look at your background and your credit history. Even if you don't have any, they're still going to look at your credit history. So they're looking for, you got to have a clean background to work at a bank because there's a lot of ways that you could get in a lot of trouble, and they have to make sure there's a lot of rules to working at a bank. So as long as you have a clean background, it's worth doing. So when you're in college too, these are really great jobs to have as tellers because often banks will pay, if you're there for a certain amount of time, they'll pay for some of your college. So it's the really great job. Couldn't suggest that more.
And their hours are really good too.
Mhm.
So if you don't want to work on Sundays, banks usually aren't open on Sundays, and they get, a lot of the holidays off for sure.
Bank holidays are the best. It's more than normal. And most banks are closed by about 12 p.m. or 2 p.m. on Saturdays. So you get nights and weekends off for the most part. So that really good jobs to have, and they'll work with your school schedule. So worth looking at. Let's move on to personal bankers. So these are the folks at the bank that help you set up accounts, work with you for your financial goals. They'll recommend specific products, and products at a bank would be like debit cards, credit cards, loans, things that the bank offers as a financial support to you. So they'll look at what you need as you talk to them. They're the ones that usually have an office, and you usually go in and sit down with them to talk because they're going to want to hear your story. What are you looking for? And help you set up those accounts that go with that. Loan officers. Loan officers are the ones that help you apply for a loan. So it could be a home loan, a car loan. Ready loans are like everyday loans if you just need some cash. But those are the ones that if you go in there and say, I want to buy a car, the support staff is going to lead you towards a loan officer. So most of the time, their title explains what they do, which is nice. So assistant branch managers. So every branch has a manager, one that just kind of runs the show, and there's usually assistant branch managers, so they're one under that. They typically are responsible for handling the daily operations or how the branch functions on a day-to-day basis. Most assistant branch managers know how to do every job there and can jump in where they need to. They're the ones that have been there a little bit longer, and they have the power to kind of make a lot more decisions. And then on top of that is the branch manager. They're really overseeing everything, including the assistant branch manager. So in the chain of command, assistant branch manager will likely help you before a branch manager. But I know at UBT, the branch managers are constantly kind of filling in where they need to, which is really nice. Any questions on who you're going to meet at a bank? I appreciate jumping in with that question about how much they pay. Thank you for that. Okay, let's move on then, because I really want to get to forms of payment. I'm excited about that one. Okay, so let's talk about what we offer at banks. Again, not every bank is the same. So I'm really speaking from UBT, but most banks do the same types of things. So you can open up an account at a bank, or you can do it online. We offer checking and savings accounts. So checking is more of your everyday, you're swiping your debit card, versus a savings account that is just really for putting money away. You don't have a card associated with your savings account. That's for a checking account. You can go in and deposit or withdraw. So put money in your account or take money out. You could apply for loans or credit cards. There's people there that are available to do financial planning. So I'm a financial coach, which means I can sit down with you and make a budget or talk through your budget or help you with resources in the community. Financial planning is kind of a step up. This is for folks that maybe own a home, have a lot of savings, or planning for retirement, kind of later on in life with a little bit more cash in their pocket. So financial planners help them make big decisions for their money. Business banking. So if you own a business or even a small business, we help with that. So if you're an entrepreneur, we can definitely help with that.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Sorry. So are these services all free through the bank as long as you're like a member, or do some of these services cost?
Are they all free? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So there's costs of various things, just to give you kind of a vague answer. So checking and savings accounts, sometimes there's cost associated with them if you don't keep a certain amount of money into them. If you are getting a loan, there's always an interest charge with it. So if you take out $1,000, they might charge you 3% interest. So you're going to owe a little bit more to borrow the money. Credit cards always have interest payments, but sitting down with someone in a bank to talk to them and figure out what you need, that should not cost you any money. Okay. I know there are banks out there. There's one particular bank, and I will not say their name. It's pretty popular national bank that often charges you to just talk to someone at their bank. And so if you are banking with someone that charges you money to deposit money into your account or sit down with a banker to figure out what you need, that's not a good use of your money. I'll put it that way. So you should never be charged to talk to someone. Now, if you're using a product or a service, sure, there's going to be some sort of charge involved in that, usually with an interest rate, but you should never be charged something to sit down and talk to someone ever. That's not good banking. One thing I skipped on here was a safe deposit box. We're going to go into what that is and what it's used for. So I'm not going to go into that yet. Great question. Thank you. I hope I answered it. If not, hang back at the end of this and I'll answer that better for you. Let's talk about security at the bank. This is where there's a lot of worry about the fact that I have this money and I'm putting it in a bank, and then what happens to it? There's a lot of security issues with people when they put their money in the bank. And so I want to talk through that because I want you to know that your bank is safe. UBT is safe. And then also what happens if, say, the bank burns down. Things like that happen. So we do have secure doors at UBT. So you can't even get in the door to talk to someone unless you ring a doorbell. And we have cameras to see who you are, or you swipe your card. So if you have a debit card, you swipe it at the door and then the door will unlock for you. So we make sure at all of our buildings that there's not someone coming in that could harm anyone. Safety is really, really key, especially when there's a lot of money around. Whenever we hear of people being broken into, it's usually banks. That's what they make movies out of because they want the money. So we have to keep our doors very secure. You do need to bring your ID, because if you were going to go to the bank and say, I want $1,000 out of my account, they're going to want to see your ID. They want to know that you are who you say you are. Safe deposit box, I'm going to skip that and we'll go into that. We will never give your account information out. So my mom and dad, they live in Arizona, and they bank with the same bank as I do. And sometimes they'll put money in my account for a Christmas gift or birthday gift. Now the bank, they have to go in there and say, here's her account number, here's her name, here's her birth date, but they will never get information back about me. My parents can say, I want to put this in Caitlin's account, but the bank can never say, do you mean Caitlin Moore or Caitlin Miller? Or they can never say who is actually banking with them. And my parents will never get a receipt back saying, you deposited this much into this account. They're not allowed to have that information. So we will never give out account information. And if somebody walked in and said, hey, does Caitlin Moore bank with you? we will never say, yes, Caitlin Moore banks with us. We're not allowed to say that. So somebody would have to have proof of who you are, an account number, some identifying information about you to even put money into your account, but they can never take it out on your behalf. FDIC insured. So has anyone, you can put in the chat box or say yes, has anyone ever heard a commercial where they say FDIC insured? Like it's a banking commercial or a money commercial. And have you heard that term, FDIC insured? Anybody? You're probably going to hear it now if you don't already do that, because it's a very popular statement. There we go. We got someone to say yes. It's a popular statement. So what this is every bank that says they're FDIC insured, they have kind of an insurance plan for your money. It's by the government, and they basically say if you have a bank account here, so if I have a bank account at UBT, I'm insured up to $250,000 of my money. So if I have, let's say, $5,000 in the bank, I've deposited it in my bank account, and then all of a sudden the bank burns down. The federal government comes in and says, it's okay, we're going to give you your $5,000 back. Let's say that there's fraud on my account. Somebody steals my money and I can prove it. And I call the bank and said, hey, somebody got my debit card. They spent my money. Here's the proof. This really happened. They're going to go, okay, well, it looks like they stole $157.63. We're going to put that right back into your account because it's insured. So I can know that for me individually, I can put up to $250,000 in the account. And if something happened, I'm going to get it back. Okay. This is really, really key for people that are worried about what will happen to my money. If somebody steals it or the bank burns down or something happens with the stock market, something like that. It's insured. Not really the stock market, because regular bank accounts are not affected by that. But just know that your money is insured up to $250,000. So you're going to get all that money back if something were to happen. So that's what FDIC insurance is. We're starting a podcast here at UBT, and I just did the voiceover stuff for the end. And I have to say FDIC insured, because I want people to know that they can use UBT as their banking, for their banking accounts, and they're insured. Their money's insured. This is a huge thing. If you use a, I can't think of the word, credit union. Credit unions are not FDIC insured, but they do have a different type of insurance. So it works the same way. They're just insured by another institution. So but you do want to look at, when you're looking at banks, if you're insured, if your money is insured. So that way you're going to get it back if something happened. Back to security at the bank, our staff is trained to ask questions about who you are. They get to know you. Most people come to the same branch or the same bank every time they need to deposit money. They usually use the one in your neighborhood. It doesn't mean you have to, but we get to know you as you come in. You can bring your dog in, which is fun. We have dog treats at the drive-in window. So we'll get to know you and your pets and your kids and your family, things like that. So it's our job to get to know you, to make sure that your account is safe and that you're safe. There is accountability. There's a lot of, when you're at a bank, there's a lot of security and there's a lot of accountability. So people checking in on us, there's regulations and rules, and we are audited. So people come in and make sure we're doing the right thing. We're keeping your account safe from fraud and things like that. And then our staff will approach you personally rather than a one size fits all. So if you go into the same bank all the time, we're going to learn your name. And you'll probably see the same people there, the same tellers. You're going to work with the same people, and they're just going to get to know you, which is fun. It's fun to see the same people all the time. Any questions so far? I feel like I'm going really fast because I want to get to the other lesson. So, okay. So safe deposit box. So what this is every branch has what we call a vault. I'm losing it. Okay, I'm going to start that over so I can edit it out. So every branch has what we call a vault, and that's where all the cash is. So every night the tellers will do their jobs, count up the money, and then they're going to put it into the vault. And it's literally what you see on TV. It's this giant metal room that you can actually enter, and there's this big lock that takes codes and fingerprints and things like that. But within that vault, along the walls are called safe deposit box. So there's boxes of different sizes that you can rent, and you can keep things in there. And why it's so safe and why people do this is because if the branch were to burn down or there was a tornado that just demolished everything, this vault is made out of very thick metal. It's not going to go anywhere. It's fireproof. It's not going to be blown away by a tornado. And so people keep things in this vault that you don't want to lose. And we're going to go through what to keep in there and what not to. There's also 2 keys to get into your box. If you're renting this, you're going to get a key and the bank employees have a key. And the only way to open it is if both keys are in the box. So if the branch employee has a key and they try to go to your box, they're not going to be able to do anything unless you're present. And if you come to the bank and you just try to put your key in without the branch employee, you can't even get into your box. So it's very secure because you have to have these 2 different keys, which is nice. They cost money to rent them, just like a P.O. box would, because there's various sizes. So some people want a little set one and some people want a bigger one, but they're like a monthly payment that you have to make to rent them. And you do not have to bank at UBT to rent a safe deposit box. So some people will rent a safe deposit box at a different bank than where they usually bank, just to keep it safe and somewhere else. So that's something interesting. So what do we keep in a safe deposit box? What is it made for? So there's a lot of documents that, especially as you get older and you're out on your own, that you don't want to lose. Those are like your wills, trusts, passports. Maybe you're not using your passport a lot, social security cards, your wedding, your marriage certificate, a birth certificate, things like this that you're not using all the time, but if you needed it, you could just run down to the bank and get it. So a lot of people put papers in there. They'll keep jewelry in there, expensive jewelry that they just don't want lying around their house, or just personal items that you don't want to lose. But usually it's smaller items. We're not talking about putting lotions and books in there. We're talking about something that is really valuable. And then what you should not put into the safe deposit box is weapons, illegal substances, illegal objects, and cash or other currency. So some people travel overseas and they have money from other countries that they're going to use at another time. We don't suggest putting that in the safe deposit box. Somebody gave me a really good reason, and I don't know what it is, but we don't suggest putting cash, especially if it's like US dollars. Don't put it in your safe deposit box, put it in your account, because then it's insured. You have that FDIC insurance over it. So if something did happen to it, you could get it back. So we don't suggest putting money in there. Here's the thing about the safe deposit box though. When you want to go open your box and put stuff in it, the branch employee will walk into the vault with you. You guys are both put your keys in, and then the employee steps out and gives you privacy with your box. And so if you're putting cash in it, we really don't know. We just suggest you don't, simply because if it's in your account, then it's insured. And so if something were to happen, you'll get it back. So we really give you privacy with what's there. So the branch employee doesn't know that you just put your jewelry in there or your will in there or your social security card. You get privacy in that room, and there's no cameras in that room either. So no one can see you. So it really is a secure place. And it's meant to keep things really safe, especially because we have crazy weather here in Nebraska. So safe deposit boxes are used often for reasons like that. Any questions on this?
Yeah, Caitlin, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that, not putting cash in the safety deposit box because it's not insured.
Yep.
What about the other items that you would put in there, like the jewelry or the documents?
Yeah, those are not insured either. So the box is not insured. So it's kind of put things in there at your own risk. So I say that because if somebody got a hold of your key, they could go to your box. We do ID checks and things like that, but there's, some people can figure out a way to get into your box. So we don't suggest putting things in there that aren't insured. Now you can insure your jewelry through other insurances, things like that. Social Security cards can be reprinted. So that's really not a problem, but just know that whatever you put in your box is not the branch's responsibility, but it is very safe. That's the thing. That's why people use them for that reason.
That
Great
helps.
question.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions as we move on? Okay, I'm going to pull up my other one here. Okay, forms of payment. So we're going to talk about forms of payment, different ways that we use money and not just cash, and how it works. So if you have questions about this, please ask. I may introduce some new ways to you. I may talk about ways that you need to be careful if you're using this form of payment, things like that. But this is that point where if you want to engage with me here, it'd be really great. So here is a list of different types of payments that we're going to go through. So EBT cards, so your like food stamps and extra money for food, cashier's checks, wire transfers, checks, debit and credit cards, cash, prepaid cards, gift cards, and electronic bill payments. So these are ways that we can pay. Online, we've got things like PayPal, Apple Pay, Venmo, Zelle, cryptocurrency, and we'll briefly talk about some of those, but not a whole lot, because paying online is becoming a very, very popular way of doing business, especially if you're, ordering something online through Amazon, things like that. So we will go through each of these. So EBT cards. What EBT stands for is electronic benefits transfer. So we're electronically giving you your benefit. So money, say your food supplement, and then they're going to transfer it on this card for you. Excuse me. These could be your SNAP benefits too. It used to be, I think like even 2 years ago, it used to come in check form, and now they've moved exclusively to the cards. This also counts for like WIC. My husband and I did foster care, and our foster kids were eligible for WIC. And so we got a little debit card. We were told how much is on it, but it's really hard to keep track of that, which is kind of the negative of these EBT cards, SNAP benefits, WIC, is that you don't really have an account that you can just go and pull up and say, oh, I have $50 left. I have $32 left. You really don't know. And so it is your responsibility to know how much has been put on your card, how much you're spending, and how much you have left. So that's something
there is actually an app now that you can use for EBT.
They have the app now?
Yes.
Awesome. That's new, because that was not the case. So I'm going to note that in my brain so I don't say that next time. So I'm hoping that they're doing that for all of them then, because even WIC, I had no idea how much was left. The receipt, like if I went to Walmart and use our WIC card for our foster kiddo, at the end it would say you have this left on your card, which was helpful. But it used to be that you only could use certain amount for this food item, certain amount for this food item. So they did get a little more looser with how you could spend the money. But just look out for that. I would highly suggest, if you are getting benefits this way, that you download that app and you keep track of your benefits. Because I know a lot of people use the money in ways that maybe aren't beneficial in the long run. Like I know that a lot of them you can use at Starbucks, but it's there to go to the grocery store and get groceries. So keeping track of your benefits, how much you're spending, how much you have left, is really, really important when it comes to this type of payment, because you don't want to be, I worked, just so some of you don't know this, I worked in foster care at a foster care agency here in Lincoln. And so I worked with a lot of kiddos that got benefits like this. And by the middle of the month, they were out of money because they wouldn't keep track of it. They would just go and spend anywhere they wanted. And then by the middle of the month, they didn't have any food money left. And so we'd have to find them resources within the community. So if you have the option of getting that app, please do. It's going to help you manage your money and help your PALS worker help you kind of budget and help you with that. So I'm so glad to know that there's an app for this now. So relieved. Okay, cashier's check. A cashier's check are checks, so paper checks. Some of you may have no idea what I'm talking about. That's okay. But checks are you write in what you're going to pay someone and you hand them this check instead of having cash, and they go to the bank and they cash it so they can get the cash for that. So cashier's checks are actually a bank. So you go into the bank and you say, I need a cashier's check for $25. Here's $25. They'll write a check for you and you can take it somewhere. So a lot of people who pay rent are required to pay through a cashier's check. Sometimes when you're purchasing something, they require a cashier's check. And what that means is you need to go to the bank, or you could even go to Walmart. I think possibly the post office. Somebody tell me if I'm wrong. There's another government entity that does cashier's checks sometimes. Don't hold me to the post office thing, but you could get cashier's checks at various places, but sometimes they cost money if you don't bank with them. So I know Walmart will charge you. So if you want a $25 cashier's check, it might cost you $2 to do that. So go to your bank and ask for a cashier's check because it doesn't cost any money. Cashier's checks are also a way if you're carrying money. So if you are, I know some people will get a cashier's check for a down payment on a house. So instead of taking $20,000 to the bank or to their realtor to pay for the down payment, they get a cashier's check. So that way they're holding one piece of paper instead of this large sum of cash. So that would be a benefit of a cashier's check. A wire transfer. This is where you electronically move money from point A to point B. So we could do wire transfers out of your bank account to pay for something else. People do this with large sums of money to transfer money. Like I could wire my parents' money. So I could just go to my bank. If I have their bank account number, I can wire them money. So it never comes out in cash or even in check form. It's just a bank moving money from one place to another. Western Union, that's what they do, is wire transfers. So you'd go into Western Union, if that even exists in Lincoln, but you would give them the money that you need transferred somewhere else. So it's a good way to move money without the responsibility of carrying all this cash with you. It's usually needed for specific things. It's not an everyday thing. Checks. If you don't know what a check is, definitely talk to your PALS worker because we need to work on that because though it's rare, it's definitely necessary to know what a check is, how to write a check, things like that. But a check is a written form of cash to pay for something. So I think we all know what a work check, if we work, we'll get a check. So they're going to give us a written form to say you made $500 and you go to the bank and you cash your check. Well, you can actually write your own checks and say, I'm going to pay Amy $25 and I put her name on it, put $25 and then I hand her that piece of paper and she goes to the bank and she cashes that. So she can get that $25 from me. So it's another form of cash without having cash in your hand. And actually, fun fact with a check, you can write a check to anyone on anything. So I have this little squishy smiley face thing here, stress ball. I could actually write Amy a check on the back of this if I wanted to. I'd just put her name, how much money. I'd have to put my routing number and bank account number. So those are two pieces of information and I need to sign it, but I could literally hand her this and she could go to the bank and cash this so she can get my $25. So not many people know that you could write a check on anything as long as you have routing and bank account number, but wouldn't suggest doing it. The bank's going to look at you like you're crazy. And it's going to be a little bit harder, but you can do that, which is a little fun fact. Debit cards. That's where we're swiping at the register. This is a little card attached to your checking account. So the difference between a checking account and a savings account is checking. That's what you're using to pay things all the time. When we go to the movies or Target or Walmart, we're using our debit card. Comes out of checking. Savings does not have cards attached to them, only your checking. So if you have a savings account, there are some savings accounts that have cards attached to them, but you can't use them everywhere. And they're for savings accounts that I believe have higher balances, so a lot more money in them. And they cost a higher fee to use them. So the best thing to do is if you have a savings account, but you want to use the money, is to just move it into your checking account. With a savings account though, you can go to the bank and take money out. You're allowed to do that. You just don't have a card attached to it. But your debit card is attached to your checking, and that's where money usually goes to and from. When you have a job, they're going to put it in your checking account and you can spend out of that account. A credit card is a little bit different. It's a lot like a loan. So credit card is not free money. It is a loan that you must pay back. So if you use a credit card, let's say you went to Target and you spent $100 and you put it on your credit card, you swipe your credit card, you're going to get a bill for $100 later. Doesn't mean that just because you got this credit card, you now have $100 to spend. It means that you're taking a loan, a short-term loan, and you're going to pay it back. And if you don't pay it back, you're charged an interest rate. So you're charged money to not pay it back. And usually on credit cards, it's pretty high. It's anywhere between, I mean, sometimes it's 0%, but it could go up to, I believe, 30%, 29.99%. So credit cards are not free money. They're loans, and you don't need one. Let me tell you that. If you have cash, you do not need a credit card. If you have enough money in your bank, you do not need a credit card. And despite what teachers will tell you, you do not need a credit card when you're 18 to start building your credit. There are other ways to build your credit, and we could do a whole day or a whole one of these on building your credit. But I just had somebody contact me, a guy I'm working with for financial coaching. His daughter's in high school. She's about to graduate, and her economic teacher told her to go get a credit card now that she's 18. And they called me and they said, is that true? Does she need to be doing this to build credit? She's got savings. She's got a job. Does she need a credit card? No, you do not need a credit card to build your credit. And I would highly, highly encourage you to not get a credit card until you have stable income, even after college, that you know you can pay this back, because loans cost money. Therefore, credit cards cost money. So you do not need to be charged extra money to use your money. So don't get a credit card till later. Just don't. It's not worth it. There are what we call secured credit cards, and that's where you put money down. So you could take $100 in there, get a credit card that's worth $100, and you're still going to get a bill as you spend money. But when you're done with that credit card, you'll get your $100 back. So it's a good way to build your credit with a secured credit card, but it's not the same. So if you want to know more about that, please let me know. But credit cards are unnecessary until later on in life. And then they're never necessary. It's just a loan. So cash, we all know what cash is. It comes in forms of 1s, 5s, 10s, 20s, and $100 bills. Does anybody know what the largest dollar currency is in the US? What's our largest bill? If you want to put it in the chat box or say it out loud. Anybody? Okay, $100 bill. That's as high as it goes. Currently, there's old money that I think there was like a $10,000 bill and a $50,000 bill, but they don't make them anymore. So $100 bill is as high as it goes anymore. So fun fact. Prepaid credit card. Was somebody going to say something?
Is that with pesos too?
What's that?
Is that with pesos too?
This is just for the US dollar, so I don't know about pesos.
Okay.
Great question. Okay, prepaid credit cards. Prepaid credit cards are, I'm going to use the example of Visa cards. You can go to the store and get a credit card. It says Visa on it, and you can put, let's say, $25 on it. It might cost you $5 to actually load this card, but then you could take that and use it as a credit card. But once the money is paid or used, it's done. It's all gone. You can't use it anymore. There are secured credit cards. Like I was just saying, it's another form of a credit card where you're putting money down. It's called collateral. So however much money you bring to the bank to open up a secured card will be your limit. So I'm going to use $500 as my example. So I could take $500 to the bank in cash and say, I want a secured credit card. I don't have to have credit to do this, but as I use this card, it's going to build my credit. So it's a safe way to do that. So what they're going to do is they're going to take my $500 and they're going to give me a credit card with a limit of $500. I can only spend up to $500 on this card. Let's say I went to Target and I spent $100 this month on it. I'm going to get a bill for $100 and I'm going to pay that off. And then I'm going to spend a little bit more and I'm going to get a bill, and we're going to do this for the next year, just on and off. And let's say in December, I'm just done with this secured card. I don't need it anymore. I've built up my credit where I want it to be. I go into the bank and I say, I want to close this card. And they're going to look at my balance and they're going to say, oh, you paid it off. You don't have any money that you owe. So here's your $500 back. It's kind of like a security deposit at an apartment. You pay this deposit, and then when you leave, as long as you didn't break anything or destroy anything, they're going to give it all back to you. So it's the same thing with the credit card. If I went in there and I closed the account, but I still owed them $50, they're going to give me everything but $50 back. So it pays it back for me. So it's a safe way to build credit. It's safe for the bank, because if you don't have credit, they don't know if they can trust you. But this builds the trust with the bank, and it builds up your credit score, which is for another lesson, which maybe we should put that on our list to talk about credit, building credit, what that means. So prepaid credit cards, there's different types. Prepaid is the way to go at this point for your age. If you need a credit card, do the prepaid, because then it's way more responsible and you just don't need a credit card at this point. Gift cards, Visa, MasterCard, that's like the prepaid credit card. Like I was mentioning, you could go to the store, load up as much as you want, gift it to someone, and then they have this credit card type card that they could go and spend up to $50 on, or however much you put on it. Electronic bill payment, most bank accounts, you can go onto another tab on the website and you can actually pay a bill. And what that does is you put in the information. So sometimes I pay my electricity this way. So I put in, Black Hills or whomever it is, and I put in their information, and then I say I owe them, $56. And then the bank actually they send them a check on my behalf, but they take the money out of my account. So I don't have to write a check because I don't have checks. I can just go online to my bank account and get that paid out for me. So the bank's kind of doing the work for me, and they just take it straight out of my account. So that's a perk, especially when you start renting or you buy a house, like to be able to pay your bills without having to have checks or wait for the money to come out. Because when you pay with a check, you got to wait for that money to come out, which can get dangerous if you forget about that check. So electronic bill pay is just to pay your bills online through your account, and the money comes straight out of your account and you can wash your hands of it and you're done, which is nice. Any questions about those types of payments? Any clarification that needs to be made? I kind of went through it a little fast, but even if you don't know what a lot of these are, you're probably going to run into them fairly soon. You're getting to that age, especially when you start working, get out of the house, live on your own. You're going to start hearing these things. Some people require it. Next time we meet, or in the next couple months when we meet, we're going to talk about scams and fraud and how people scam you with some of these forms of payment. So we'll refer back to this list, which is handy. Gift cards are a huge scam if somebody's requesting it. So just know that. So we'll come back to that, but there's no questions. I'll go to online payment types. So a very popular way now, which I have two of on my phone, is paying with apps. So PayPal or Venmo. Oh, I have another one. I think it's called Cash App or something. What those apps do is they connect to your checking or savings account, and they just take money out of that and then pay whoever you're trying to pay. So I use Venmo the most. And for me, it's a very easy way to pay other people, especially like I buy things off of Facebook Marketplace, or I sell things on Marketplace, and people can do this quickly without having to take money. Especially right now during COVID, people are scared of money, like cash money, because it's dirty. So a lot of people are paying through these apps now. Make sure that if you're doing this, that you're using like a brand name app, I should say. I don't really know how to say it otherwise. Like PayPal and Venmo, Cash App, those like check out, but don't use something that maybe you heard from a friend of a friend. Because there's a lot of security issues when you're putting your checking or savings account information into an app. you want to make sure that that app is legitimate. So use the popular ones. I know that like for me, my Amazon account is on, I have an iPhone, so I use Apple Pay, which is connected to my credit card, which also connects to my checking account. And so if I pay for something on my phone to Amazon, then I'm taking a risk because there's a lot of accounts that are lined up on this. So you have to be very, very careful, even when you're using legitimate types of cash apps, to be exchanging money. But I would really encourage you to use popular ones simply because there's a lot more security on them. The more people that use them, the more security they're going to have around them. PayPal's been around for probably decades. They're pretty secure. I really like Venmo. I think it's a very popular one. So those are great ways to pay with security behind it, where you can pay people that, without using cash or something like that. Because I don't know about you, but I almost never have cash in my wallet. Cash is kind of taboo right now. Nobody really uses it. I know that our country has a change shortage. There's not enough quarters and nickels and dimes out there. So it's kind of weird. I think it's because nobody wants to touch dirty money anymore. So nobody's using it at stores and stuff because they use things like that. Another form of online payments is Apple Pay. I don't know about the other types of phones besides the iPhones, if they have this type of thing, but for Apple Pay, it's still technically an app that I'm connecting to my checking account or my credit card or my debit card. And so it's still being paid the same way as like Venmo or PayPal. It's just on my phone and it connects more. So like my iTunes is connected to that, Amazon, various things that I use on my phone. But it still can be very risky because if somebody got a hold of that shouldn't, they're going to have my information. If somebody got on my app, which if you have cash apps on your phone, you need to make sure you have a code on your phone. You need to be locking your phone because anyone could get in there and steal your information. So even if you use your banking app on your phone, you need to have your phone locked down because you don't want people to get on there and steal your information, steal your money. So Apple Pay is the same way. It's still a digital form of payment. It's still used online or through your phone to phone, things like that. So be really careful with it. Though it's very popular, it's still your responsibility to lock it down and make sure nobody's getting a hold of it. And then there's cryptocurrency like Bitcoin. I still don't really know how this is used, but I heard Bitcoin has really taken off in 2020. But it's basically you'll never see cash form of this money. You will never see it. And there's really no way to transfer it into a bank account and turn it into cash. It's just using Bitcoin where Bitcoin is used. How you get Bitcoin, I don't know. Somebody can enlighten me. I really don't care because I'm not going to use it. And it's not something that at the bank we're encouraging people to use either. But a lot of people use it for investing, things like that. But if you're using cryptocurrency, you need to be careful because you're never going to be able to cash that out. So it's really never a good idea for someone to say, oh, buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, because though you're depositing $1,000 in cash, you will never get that back. So if Bitcoin's worth, because it really is deemed by the stock market, if that goes down, your $1,000 may be worth 500 tomorrow. So it's really a risky move to use cryptocurrency. Some people will tell you differently. As a bank employee and someone who does this for a living, it should not be your first form of payment because also not everybody takes it. So it's not really a good avenue to go down, but it does exist. It's out there. You're just never going to see cash form of it. So it's not really a good thing to be using, especially on a tight budget. So people are investing in Bitcoin though, like the worth of it and ups and downs, whatever. That's for another lesson on investing and how that works. So, but yes, that's another type of payment. So with the online payment types, your apps, your Apple Pay, cryptocurrency, though it seems safe because we're not carrying around cash, you need to make sure that you're using legitimate sites, that you're locking it down. You're not sharing your personal information, even if it is just your UBT app or your other banking apps on your phone. You need to make sure that you've got security on it because people can steal that information and take the money that you have in there. So very scary stuff. And it's different because it's not FDIC insured. If your money is taken from PayPal, that's it. You lose out on this money. So yeah, does anybody have any questions about these online payment types? I'm definitely not saying don't use them. I use them. So I'd be a hypocrite if I told you differently. I'm just saying lock your phone down, lock your information down, and don't share your online account information with others. And that could be a huge fraud. And we'll go through that because some people will try to scam you into giving them your Venmo information, your sign-on, your banking information, and you should not be doing that. You should never share that information with anyone. So, well, if there are no questions or you just don't want to ask it now, you can ask your PALS worker. They ask me questions all the time, which is great. I know Dan has reached out to me fairly recently about some really good questions. That's my work number, my email address. You are always welcome to reach out to me or go through your PALS worker. If I can help you with your online banking, you can do all of your banking online. So if you do need to set up a checking account or a savings account, even if you if you have a guardian versus like your bio parent, something like that, you can still set things up online. I just had that situation happen with somebody who's in foster care, and they still were able to get a bank account. So don't think that you can't just because you may be in the system somewhere. It is still possible, and we make it pretty easy. We actually have accounts specifically for people that are teenagers to young adults. So we make accounts specifically for your age group. So if I can help you with any of that, let me know. But is there any other questions to end off with? Okay, well, thank you everyone for your time. We're going to be doing these once a month. So keep your eye out, different topics. Yep, those are coming up. So thank you.